Now, let's discuss profitability assessment. At the end of the day, while some of us are very value driven, we just want to create impact. But if you are not a social entrepreneur, if you are an economic entrepreneur, the truth is that you are in business to make profit. You are in business to turn over your investment, your capital, be it monetary capital, time capital, effort capital, all the things you have invested into your business. You are hoping that all of those resources that have been imputed will be multiplied and you'll be given more out of it. That is the whole essence of one of the major objectives of being an entrepreneur or going on an entrepreneurial path. Now, the question that your profitability assessment tries to answer is, will this model yield return? Which means that all those resources, all those inputs you have identified at your feasibility assessment, will you be getting when you invest it into your business? Of course, you would have known, you have an estimate of what your cost is going to be. If you have done your, like I said, we'll walk you through how to do your feasibility assessment. One of the lessons would be showing you how to do your feasibility assessment in a practical way. Now, if you have done a thorough feasibility assessment, you have at the back of your mind, things happen, things could change at execution, but of course, they won't be too drastic. You have an overview, an estimate of what it will cost you to execute if any major factor does not change on the estimate. Now, for your profitability assessment, you want to answer the question that all of those things that you're investing into this business, of course, to create value for your target market, for your target audience, will you get, when you do that, when you use all of those resources to create value, will you be getting return? That means, will you get a multiplier effect eventually? Now, don't go into a business with the aim of, making profits in the first week. No, there is a breathing period where you are breathing your profitability. Now, but you also have to have it at the back of your mind how much of turnaround time you want. You are estimating at what point do you intend to break even. Break even means the point where what you have spent and what you have made are the same. That is a 0 point. It's called equilibrium. So now at that point, from that point forward, you can now start to think about profits, but you have to first of all hit break even. So the question that, like I said, the question that profitability assessment at the end of the day, no matter how much exercise we do on this profitability assessment effort, what we are trying to ascertain or predict is the business's ability to generate return on anything we invest into it. Other than that, you'll be on a path of executing your hobby. I mean, if it's a hobby, then you know it's a hobby. You can invest resources. If it's charity, you know it's charity. If it's socialpreneurship, you know it's socialpreneurship. But if you have decided that you're an entrepreneur, you are in it to create value and make money while doing so. Multiply your costs. So you need to be able to predict what are the chances that this venture that I've embarked on or that I'm embarking on, that I'm setting out to embark on, what are the chances that I'll be able to make return on it? So there are other questions that are derived from this big question. The first question is that how long will it take? These are things you want to consider, you want to know, or you want to predict, or you want to forecast off the top of your head. You need some thorough financial analysis for this. How long will it take? So that's how you need to have clarity on, first of all, what it costs you to operate in this market. That's your feasibility. Second, you have to know the market so that you know, how big is the problem I'm trying to solve? Who are the people already solving, so that I can know how to compete with them. So that's why your feasibility, your viability effort, after I've gone ahead, before you can now start to think of profitability. That establishes your chances of actually being able to make money in this market. So you have to first of all know what you need to operate in the market and know where to find it. Then when you pass that check, then you have to know the market. I think you should have known the market before you actually know what to use in the market. But you have to know it at an in-depth level so that you can know, the strategies to deploy to survive in the market and also thrive. Then when you know your strategies, your nitty-gritty, when you understand the market like the back of your hands, all the elements of the market like the back of your hands, then you can now start to think of profit. And it's good to do all these exercises before you start. While they are not written in stone, things can change, but this gives you direction, it gives you clarity from the onset. And as you execute some of the strategic direction you've mapped out at this phase, then when things change, it's just a bit of tweak here and there, a bit of redirection here and there. But setting out without clarity, without direction, is a recipe for disaster. And one is setting oneself up for failure in the long run. You don't throw your money around, you don't throw your time around. If you're going to do it, you can as well start well so that it increases your chances of success. So like I was saying, you want to have an idea. I mean, like I said, it's not written in stone, it's just a forecast. You want to have an idea based on you having clarity on what your cost is going to be, you knowing the market you're operating in, knowing the nitty-gritties of the market, and having some strategies at the back of your mind of how you want to operate and compete in the market. Then you are now able to predict, based on all those factors, how long it might take for you to hit a break-even point. Remember, I'm always mentioning break-even because there is no profitability without break-even. That is the point where you have recouped all the money, all the resources, you have cost for your time too. Like capital or cost is not only monetary costs, like I said earlier. The cost for your time, you have to put that in monetary value. The cost for the skills you hire, everything has to have a monetary interpretation. So when you have now the point at which what the business has been able to generate after taking out all of your costs is zero. The point whereby your cost is equal to your revenue. What the business is bringing in is equal to what the expenditure the business has incurred. That is the equilibrium point. Now, when you hit that point, that's a milestone in your business, because for the longest time, a lot of entrepreneurs spend for a long time without actually hitting equilibrium. They are in deficit for a while, depending on the size of the business, depending on the size of the market, depending on how huge of a problem, if it's an innovative problem, innovative solution that's no prototype or no one has ever really done before, it might require a lot of capital, upfront before product even hit the market. There's R&D cost and so many other costs. So you want to have an idea based on the size of the market in which you're solving a problem, based on the size of the problem you're solving, based on are there antecedents in this market that I can leverage and build up from there. All these other factors, you use it to predict how long it might take for you, because how much money you're going to be spending to get the product to the point where it starts to make money, and also based on the market size and maybe all of the strategies you are mapping out, your marketing strategy and all the other strategy, you want to know how long it might take for you to make a certain amount of money. And at what point on your roadmap is what you have spent going to be equal to what you have recouped? That's your break-even. You have to forecast that on your roadmap. Because it is whatever is on your roadmap that as you now transition into execution, that's what you will use to be, you'll be using to assess yourself, your progress. And if anything needs to change, you can update it on your roadmap. But you have direction per time. You are not just going like with the wind. You have focus and direction, because with that you're guaranteed of a destination, and you know where your business is heading, rather than just being everywhere. So how long will it take? I've talked about that. Then another thing is that how much can I make for every dollar spent? So you have to know at the point of knowing the industry, you must have done some benchmarking. There must have been some benchmarking effort. What does benchmark mean? Benchmark means that you are comparing someone that is already doing what you're doing. You are comparing, how things work, how much do they make, or what's the average cost. You are trying to gather data on what someone that is already in your market is doing, the market you're about to enter into, what they are doing, right? So you want to know how much you're able to make per dollar. Remember that Depending on how heavy of a barrier to entry the market has. Some markets, like I said, some big innovative markets, the R&D cost is heavy, which already poses a big barrier to entry that not just anybody can enter. It has its good side. Like I said in the viability assessment, it means that there will be less competition. It makes you a unicorn. If you are not a unicorn, at least you have other few unicorns like yourself. The higher the barrier to entry, the higher, and of course, if there's so much value to be delivered, the higher your chances of making it big. However, you want to also be, it depends. It depends on what path you want to choose. You don't want your turnaround time, how long it would take to take forever. You don't want your turnaround time to take forever. Like, let's say your R&D taking 5 years. There are innovations like that, R&D taking 5 years. But what I usually recommend is that start something small that is fetching some kind of liquidity into the business while you build the bigger picture. Because I mean, if the cash burn is just going, you're just burning cash, it could get exhausting. Especially if you are the first in the industry, like nobody has ever done something like that before. I do not recommend that your first entrepreneurial venture should be such a big one, because there is no track record. If you look at Elon Musk, he was involved in PayPal. He started little things before he now became this giant that is going to the space, that is building robots. Those are really capital intensive ventures or projects. But guess what? He has been able to generate revenue from smaller wins in the past that is now he has some liquidity to play around to build bigger things. So that's my professional recommendation to anyone trying to start out. Make sure that you have some history, so that even investors, when they want to pour in money, when you're trying to raise funds, when investors want to pour in money into your business, they can have some kind of, no matter how small of a win, historical win you have, they can leverage it as a comfort to pour in big money. You don't want to get stranded or get frustrated along the way. Now, like I was saying, how much can I make for every dollar spent? You want to have an estimate, a projection. Like I say, it is not written in stone. Things can change, strategies can be modified, but you want to have it at the back of your mind. You want to have some kind of foresight as to what am I targeting to make? What does the industry command? What can I realistically make? Do I, as a market entry strategy, do I want to bring down my own margin? Profit margin a little bit. What is profit margin? Profit margin is the percentage of how much money you make on top of your cost. And you're taking up out of your cost the margin of your cost to your revenue. That difference, the difference between your cost and revenue, that the percentage of it. So let's say you invested $50 in a business venture and you make $100. So that is you have doubled the money. That's 100% profit margin, because the difference between $100 and $50 that you spent is $50. So that is 100%. That's a 100% profit margin. So that's what profit margin means. So to go back to what I was saying, profit margin, how much can I make? So for every $50 spent, what is the realistic amount that I can make? If you have clarity on your projected or achievable profit margin based on the industry or based on existing markets, the ecosystem of the market, then you can say, okay, as a market entry strategy, I'll lower my profit margin. You want to have clarity on this things. I'll lower my profit margin so that I can compete. Then when I become a recognized brand, I can increase my profit margin a little bit. I hope we understand. So, like I said, like I've been saying, there are worksheets, work exercise that we use to, practicalize all the things we are talking about. But you need to get a grasp of the concept before we go into practicals. Also, I recommend that if you have not joined the open group, I recommend that you join, because what it does for you is that if there is while you are doing your worksheets, when you are doing it, even as you are building, not only for the planning phase of your business, as you build as well, if you ever run into any challenge, it's a community where we all interact, and you can drop a question in the community and your questions get answered. So it saves you the cost of hiring consultants. It's like a consulting platform on the go in a communal setting. So I recommend, this is another call to action for you to join the open community with the link on the screen. Now, as I was saying, so you want to estimate, remember this is an estimate, you want to estimate what you desire based, of course you have to be realistic, based on what is attainable in the market, what your profit margin is. You could have a profit margin in the initial phase, maybe market entry profit margin, you could establish it, and after a certain years, where you predicted maybe market acceptance would be at a certain level by that milestone, by that number of years, then you can say, at this point, or maybe when we have 5,000 consumers, it doesn't have to be year based. When we have 5,000 consumers, we will increase our profit margin by this. So, because when you have clarity, it always would influence you making sure that your cost is streamlined. Control your cost. You want to make your cost of execution, your cost of production, your cost of operations as minimal as possible. If there are ways to reduce costs, you want to constantly explore them while still maintaining value creation and quality. You don't want to compromise quality for cost. So your strategy team has to constantly, or you as a strategy person, that's why you need open, because we can give you strategic advice, strategic direction here and there as an open member, as a member of the open community. So you want to constantly keep your cost under control, try to maximize output and minimize cost. Then you want to streamline your operations. So that is part of ensuring that your profit margin, because remember, you want to establish what you make for every dollar spent. So for every dollar spent, you want to maximize output, you want to maximize potential return on investment. So you want to streamline your operations. So remember that the bottom we said cost control. That's a cost of production, cost of operations. You want to streamline operation. You want to streamline your operations. You want to make sure that things are concise and precise, and there are no ambiguities. There are no things that are irrelevant. There are no redundant expenditure that do not add value to the business. There are primary expenses. There are expenses that had primary value. There are some that had secondary value. Well, for example, now human relationship. Maybe you take someone out on a dinner, or you go to an event, and there's a cost to going to that event. It might seem like it's not delivering immediate benefit to the business, but in the long run, there's a secondary value, because you might network. Maybe you have a certain kind of people there that you want to network with that could be valuable to your business in the long run. So you want to control your costs, you want to streamline your operations, and you want to optimize pricing. What I mean by that is that for every time, price optimization looks like for every time someone wants to buy from you, you want to come up with strategies that ensures that they plan to buy one, they end up buying two. Putting perks here and there, that every cost per transaction increases every revenue that you make per transaction. So each time someone encounters you, you can give them complimentary offers that increases the value of each checkout. Each time someone buys from you, you want to increase the value from what they had anticipated. So maybe on a normal day, there's a complimentary product that you could have been sold at 100% if they came to buy it by itself, but because they are buying that day, and because it complements what they came to buy, so you have to be strategic like that. Because it complements what they came to buy, they'll be getting it maybe for 70%. They're saving 30%. You might be incentivizing enough for them to go for it that day, right? Rather than coming to buy it 100% later. Of course, it has to be something they would eventually need. So that it incentivizes them to buy in that moment. Now, you have just increased the value of that transaction from, if it was supposed to be $100, is now $170, right? In that moment. So these are the things you have to think about when you start to think of how much can I make per dollar spent. How can I maximize every conversion point, every sale point? Then also, how long can it take me to, how long does it take me to recoup my money and some more on it? These are considerations that we have to think about. However, this is not the end of it. I'm going to see you in some subsequent work effort so that we can walk through we have a lot of worksheets. we are going to get this done. So I want you to be such that at the end of the course, you have a tangible output of what your business entails. It helps you take a decision to proceed because you have clarity, or to refine whatever model you had in mind, or whatever idea you had, to refine it with the knowledge you are now equipped with. And you can now use the frameworks, the worksheets to assess, you know, the knowledge you have right now, the worksheets that we are working you through, to assess a refined model. Any model of business you ever come up with in life, these are fundamental frameworks, fundamental principles, fundamental guidelines to help you assess them, assess its feasibility, its viability, and its profitability. So I'm going to see you in the worksheets session, and I hope that you maximize the potential of the entrepreneurial path you have chosen to go on. Bye for now.